Hello, everyone. This is the first chapter of my book, The Seer, Violets in the Grass. You are about to listen to a conversation between me and the regressionist, in which I come right out and say regressionist, and then I quote what he says, and Ariel, referring to myself, and then I state what's being said there. So I'm doing a dialogue with myself, essentially, in order to depict. I should have brought in someone else, but I didn't. But I thought I'd just read this through. The first chapter is a conversation. It's going back and forth while I'm having, this is my first regression. And so this happens, I want to say about 15 or more years ago. And the first chapter is mostly this dialogue. Afterwards, you'll see little bits and pieces of a dialogue, but essentially, this regression triggers this long journey that I start to review all sorts of things that happened throughout my life and begin to catalog the many events that I had buried, but suddenly came more into the forefront from the regression, which opens the door of the subconscious and the memory there. And I hope you enjoy it. The Seer, Violets in the Grass, by Jessica Ariel Morocco. Chapter 1. A Regression into the Past. Regressionist. You are beginning to relax now as the worries and the cares of the day are lifting from your shoulders. Your mind has a sense of relaxation that begins to fill your body. The regressionist stands behind me, speaking in a soft, comforting voice, with the gentle music of stringed instruments, sounds of water flowing, and birds singing harmoniously together. My body begins to relax, and I feel myself sinking deeper into the couch of his office. Despite my logical surroundings, I begin to see and feel the garden that he introduces me to during the early part of the regression. A wonderful black scrolling gate that opens up to a flowing brook with trees and large rocks with wild flowers peppered through the area in small patches. I see a row of brilliant steps on a mossy green path leading my way into this mystical forest. The music and his voice seem to fade gently into the background, and I am engaged with the water and the filtering sun that bathes my cheeks gently with the sun's nourishing rays. I take in a deep breath in, and the air smells clean as the freshly watered earth from an afternoon shower. Drops of rain still fixed upon the trees and plants reflect the golden sun rays. The forest becomes illuminated in a sparkling glow of diamonds, of green emerald earth. Just as I am floating deeper into this reality, I am pulled back by the regressionist's voice. Regressionist. We are now moving into the past. You will come to a place where you need to understand something about yourself. You are going to enter a place in time where you will see something in your childhood that you need to see. Immediately, the scene shifted and I was in my youth, at Alice's house, the house next door. I was playing with a girlfriend in the backyard. We had wandered over to our neighbor's yard because of the lure of something I found quite beautiful. I could feel the spring air blow gently against my hair and face. The noise of my pink windbreaker made the crisp sound of a kite in flight. My eyes were transfixed upon the green grass in the brilliantly blue, purple colors of violets. It was a sea of violets sprinkled through a vibrantly green lawn with spots of bright yellow dandelion flowers and wild weeds of the natural New England landscape. I took in a deep breath, as if soaking into the fragrant colors of the earth. I am out of my body, observing my youthful wonderment in a moment transfixed with nature's magic. So I reach toward the grass to pluck up the violets in a miniature bouquet, perfectly suited for a child of 6 or 7 years of age. My hand goes deeper into the tall grass, and an unusual mist begins to pour in. I can see the flowers in the grass, but the mist has altered the depth of field. A portal appears, and the grass seems to reveal a landscape from beyond. An unusual scene forces me through like a magnet, and I am drawn into this window or portal to the other dimensional worlds. Within a flash of bright light, my body becomes still. I reach to touch my own chest nearer my heart. I look down and observe the clothing I am wearing. It all appears to be the same as before, yet I feel very different. A part of me is gone, the part of innocence of a child, as I am feeling somewhat impish or daring. A smirking grin of a rebellious nature, yet mischief now enters my thoughts like never before. I want to prank and challenge the neighbor whose land I am now exploring. I no longer feel fear or apprehension. The realm I had entered was the netherworld, the land of the Fae. It was I who had been turned into a changeling, a fairy of sorts, a seer of other dimensions, a child of the Fae, as my other life diminished in some type of way. I lived as if I could float and have wings. My eyes are now focused on many magical things, and I peer into the sun rays, announcing that I had made my entrance through the magical, mystical, misty haze. I am now free and now complete. My soul no longer needs to retreat. I float as a butterfly and sing about with freedom from the world that I came from. Shift the circle of my breath and make me feel the thoughts of what is best. I encounter freedom from the open door, and now the portal is closed once more. I am free as the bees in the summer sun. I fly in my soul to explore all that has come, and I know that many will know my name as I was sent before to help the earth heal again. I think to myself, who is this speaking so bold and assertive, unlike my former self? Is that me? What has happened? An attached spirit? I try to shake it from me, but to no avail. It doesn't move. It is connected to me like my shadow, a part of me that has reconnected, a place of my soul that is lost and rejoined when the opportunity did arise. I try to shake it once again from me, but to no avail. It is me. How could this be? It had taken on a new personality, or so I thought was the truth, and then I began to contemplate the many things that made me waver in this idea. The expressions I was now seeing was going on the inside of me all the time. The energy of freedom and a release from fear had now taken on the form of a winged creature quite often referred to as a fairy. A fairy? How ridiculous! What absurdity to imagine that I had formerly been a fairy. I mocked my own vision and suggested that I was probably the tooth fairy here to support the well-being of youthful dental hygiene. Stop! I pause again. What just happened, nonetheless, must be addressed. Why am I rhyming? I pause again. This is foolish. I am so full of fantasy this time that I can't get out. I must face the fact that something changed that day. Is there any other explanation for this? Still in a daze, I observe the ongoing conversation in my mind, yet I have been revived to something new. Despite my internal mental resistance, I feel wonderful. I feel light and complete as a soul. I feel an inner strength that I never experienced before and fearless like no other time. The vision began to swirl away as the regressionist called me forward once again to return back in a time, another 6 or 7 years, and remember when I entered my mother's womb. He directed me to observe what happened before I was born. Regressionist. Where are you now? Ariel. I'm in my neighbor's backyard picking violets, and there is a mist in the grass. I could feel my face grin with serenity. Regressionist. Almost like the mists of Avalon? I paused, not quite sure what this meant, but it jumped out in a way that stirred a deeper part of my memory. He proceeded to ask another question, seeing that I could not respond to his words. Regressionist. Who is there with you? Ariel. A neighborhood friend? Regressionist. Is she seeing what you're seeing? Ariel. No, she's too worried about getting yelled at by her neighbor. Regressionist. What are you doing now? Ariel. She calls my name and wants to leave because I'm dancing around the grass and drawing too much attention to us in the backyard. And I'm fearless, but she is worried. Quiet pause. As the music plays faintly in the background, he takes in a deep breath and continues with the regression. Regressionist. We're moving back further into the past, now all the way to before you were born and in your mother's womb. Regressionist. Do you see yourself in your mother's womb? Ariel. Yes. Regressionist. What is going on in your mother's mind right now, and how does she feel about you being born? Ariel. She is caught up with the many distractions of my older brothers and sister. Regressionist. Oh, you have brothers and sisters there. What is happening with her and your brothers and sister, and what is she feeling? Ariel. I can feel their energy running around the house and distracting her from thinking about me, or anything else for that matter. Regressionist. Do you feel that it is bad that she is not thinking of you or not very excited about having another child? Ariel. No, I feel that she loves my brothers and sister and is overwhelmed at times by their energy. She doesn't think about me because I am not on the outside yet. Regressionist. Are you saying that she still sees you as herself, and at this time, with other children to care for, she doesn't have much time for herself? Ariel. Yes, that is what I'm saying. I don't feel bad that she's not thinking about me. She is so distracted by their high energy, so much that she doesn't have a moment to think about me, as I am still connected to her. I didn't express this to him, but I felt that I could think and feel as she did. This was something that happened throughout my lifetime when, with her and our personalities were very similar in some ways while I was growing up, and there was always an inner understanding that was never spoken. The time in our mother's womb becomes such a transformational time that we rarely recognize the environment that formulates our very entrance into the earthly plane. Regressionist. It is now time for you to enter the world and be born. Can you see yourself being born? Ariel. I'm having trouble seeing. The light is so bright. The light is much too bright, and I can't see anything. However, I feel free from my mother's constant worries and concerns, and feel a liberation of my empathic soul. He continues to speak, but it is too far in the background, and I can barely hear his voice. The entrance into the world from my mother's womb was too strong. I don't sense any pain, but rather disorientation and an extraordinarily bright light that seems to startle my senses. I can't see beyond this. And then his voice begins to get louder. Regressionist. On the count of 10, you are now returning back and becoming more alert and aware of your surroundings. You are starting to hear the sounds around the room and are returning to the present lifetime now. You are now wide awake. I open my eyes and continue to have the feelings of waking up from a very surreal dream. My eyes become transfixed on the ceiling and the walls of the office to help myself reorient my thoughts to the surroundings of where I am at. His voice is much louder, and I am back into my consciousness of being. Regressionist. How was this experience for you? Ariel. It was wonderful, almost as if I was in a very mystical place with mists in the forest. Regressionist. It sounded like you had a pleasant childhood. Ariel. I suppose it had its challenges, but I did feel love from my mother, and there were points of joy and happiness of being a child. I'm glad I had the experience to remind me of that. The session ended, and I had to ponder what happened during this time. It wasn't until 2 years later that I was able to re-listen to this regression. I think I wasn't able to process the unusual happenings that occurred that clearly brought me to a point in my life where I may have stepped into the other dimensional realms that may have changed my very existence in some way. This was all quite fascinating to me and had me believing that my early transformation contributed to my memory of being able to see interdimensionally at times, not recognizing early on that not everyone was experiencing this reality as I did. Yet I grew to discover that there were others around me who had similar experiences with other realms of reality, and they reminded me of what I am and who I became. These other like-minded people may have also stepped through the veils of reality to capture a piece of their etheric souls, as I did, and they would confirm some of my understanding of how a person could walk between the realms of two worlds or alternate realities.